Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is a famous restaurant that used to attract many children. However, for some reason, it ended up permanently closing its doors. Those who ventured inside often met a gruesome fate. Mike was a security guard at a shopping center. He had an autistic younger sister, Abby. She spent her days drawing and talking to imaginary friends. One day, Mike had to meet with a career counselor named Steve to find a new job. He was recently fired after assaulting a customer whom he mistakenly thought was a kidnapper. Steve was speechless when he looked at Mike's resume because he hadn't held a job for more than 2 months, so he wasn't sure if he could help Mike. However, as Mike was about to leave, Steve unexpectedly offered him a job as a night security guard at a closed-down restaurant. Unfortunately, Mike declined the offer because he couldn't do the night shift. Steve gave him his business card, telling him to call if he changed his mind. When Mike returned home, he saw a late credit card debt notice, which further depressed him. He also had to spend money on hiring a caretaker for his autistic sister while he was at work. Despite all the challenges around him, he deeply cared for and loved his sister. At bedtime, he took his sleeping pills, listened to a familiar nature sound recording, and drifted off to sleep. In his dreams, he revisited the memory of his younger brother's kidnapping scene many years ago. During a family camping trip, his mother asked him to watch over his younger brother, but he was negligent, and his brother was kidnapped. Even though this incident happened many years ago, it still haunted Mike. The next morning, Mike and Jane, his aunt, went to Abby's school to meet with the social service representative. Jane continuously criticized him for not having the financial ability to care for Abby, and she demanded that Mike hand over the custody of his sister to her. In reality, she wanted to gain custody of Abby primarily for the government assistance money provided for an orphaned child. Mike, of course, refused. But given his current situation, he was certain he would lose custody of his sister if Jane took him to court. For Abby's sake, Mike reluctantly accepted the night security job that Steve had suggested the previous day. That night, Mike drove to the workplace that Steve had provided, which was Freddy Fazbear's Pizza restaurant. This place was extremely famous among children in the 1980s. His job was simple: just monitor the security camera screens and prevent anyone from entering the restaurant. Although it was outdated, everything still functioned well. Mike then watched an introductory video about the history of the pizza restaurant, which had become famous for its animatronic characters that could sing and dance for children. They included Freddy Fazbear, Bonnie the Bunny, Chica the Chicken, and Foxy the Pirate Fox. Together, they formed the famous animatronic band of that time. Mike took a tour around the restaurant and witnessed the famous animatronic characters. By 3 a.m., when everything was still calm, Mike fell asleep at his desk and had a dream about his younger brother's kidnapping once again. But this time, Mike encountered 5 children. When he tried to approach and question them about the kidnapper, they all ran away. Mike attempted to chase one of them, but tripped over a rock, waking him up. After finishing the first shift, Mike returned home and informed the babysitter that he had found a job and would pay her for looking after Abby. However, she was actually working for Jane to keep an eye on Mike and help her gain custody of Abby. They devised a plan to break into the pizza restaurant, where Mikey worked to get him fired. This would ensure her victory in gaining custody of Abby. On the second night of his shift, he continued to have the recurring dream with the 5 children from before. But this time, he chased after one of the children with an iron hook. When he attempted to catch the child used the hook to cut Mike's hand, causing him to wake up suddenly. Strange things began to happen at this point. Childlike voices echoed from the speakers. Mike quickly rushed to disable the circuit breaker. In the midst of this, a blurry figure of Foxy appeared at the door. Mike then reset the power to restore stability. Soon after, he noticed a police car through the security camera, and a female police officer was knocking on the door. Mike opened the door, and the police officer introduced herself as Vanessa. At this moment, Mike was shocked when he noticed the injury on his hand, the same injury he had in his dream. Vanessa quickly went to get a first aid kit and bandaged his hand, showing that she was familiar with the place. She revealed that she was a big fan of the restaurant when she was a child, and even shared a story related to the restaurant. In the 1980s, 5 children had gone missing, and the police thoroughly searched the restaurant but found nothing. This had led to the restaurant's closure and abandonment ever since. Vanessa then activated the animatronics to perform a familiar song. The following morning, as Mike's shift ended, Vanessa bid Mike farewell and advised him to focus only on watching over the restaurant, not getting distracted by anything else. Right after, the group working for Jane broke into the restaurant, vandalizing and stealing valuable items, unaware of the horrors awaiting them. One of them entered the kitchen to cause destruction and unexpectedly heard a strange noise coming from a fridge. As he approached to open it, he found nothing. But when he turned around, he saw Chica holding a robot cupcake in its hand. In sheer horror, the cupcake suddenly lunged at him, shattering his face. Another intruder was vandalizing when he heard the horrifying screams of his comrades. When he went to check, the horrific scene made him flee in terror. Meanwhile, the leader of the group in the security room noticed his companions panicking on the security cameras, causing him to exit the room to investigate. His associates had fled into the storage room and didn't know Bonnie was waiting for him there, resulting in a gruesome demise. As the leader approached, Bonnie emerged, frightening him and making him flee in terror. He tried to escape through the exit, but it locked. When he turned to look back, Foxy stood there, sealing his gruesome fate inescapably. Outside, the babysitter was extremely impatient due to the long wait and decided to venture inside where she met Freddy. She ended up in the same fate as her companions. Back at Mike's house, while the two siblings were discussing their detestable aunt, Vanessa suddenly paid a visit. She informed Mike that the restaurant had been broken into. She also found a bottle of sleeping pills in the security room. This discovery was certain to get Mike fired. Mike then revealed the mysterious kidnapping of his younger brother when he was only 12 years old. He had been trying to use dreams to recall the memories in hopes of finding some overlooked clue about the kidnapper. Vanessa decided to give him another chance, but threw away the sleeping pills, not allowing him to use them while working. That night, unable to contact the babysitter, Mike had no choice but to take Abby with him to work. Abby was thrilled by the decision. However, upon entering the restaurant, they found everything had been vandalized. Mike put Abby to sleep, and he began cleaning up. After a night of hard work, things were finally in order around 4 a.m., and Mike could finally get some rest. Shortly after, Abby woke up and went to the toilet. She encountered the animatronics in the hall. In Mike's dream, he met the child again and asked if they were one of the 5 missing children, but the child didn't respond and instead drew a rabbit on the ground. Mike woke up and panicked when he couldn't find Abby, rushing into the main hall. To his surprise, Abby was happily playing with the killer animatronics. Their eyes no longer appeared menacing. Instead, they had friendly expressions. Abby explained that they loved to draw and thanked them for playing with her, drawing a heart on the paper and giving the Freddy bear a loving hug. Upon returning, Mike looked at the paintings Abby had drawn. He was shocked to realize that they depicted the 5 children he had seen in his dreams. Mike realized that these 5 animatronics had been possessed by the spirits of those children. At breakfast, Mike showed Abby a drawing she had made, which depicted the scene of his younger brother's kidnapping. He asked Abby if the blonde boy in the drawing had mentioned the kidnapping, and Abby nodded. Mike tried to inquire further about the kidnapper, but Abby mentioned that all her imaginary friends talked about was a yellow rabbit. On the 4th night, Vanessa was also present at the restaurant. Abby immediately ran to the animatronics and asked both Mike and Vanessa to play with them. Vanessa and Mike went to the storage room to get some tools, where Mike talked about the 5 ghostly children he had encountered in his dreams and asserted that they had information about the kidnapper. Vanessa's expression suddenly changed, and she sternly warned Mike not to investigate further, urging him to leave. When they returned, Abby struck the guitar strings, causing an electrical malfunction that made Abby faint. Vanessa then instructed Mike to take Abby home and warned him not to bring her back, threatening to shoot him if he did. This left Mike feeling confused. The next day, he called Jane to ask her to look after Abby, which left her angry. Meanwhile, he bought sleeping pills and quickly returned to the restaurant, attempting to enter the dream world once more in hopes of meeting the children again. The animatronics wanted to make a deal with him. They wanted Abby to stay with them forever, and in exchange, they would let him stay in this dream world alongside his family. At first he agreed, but in the end, he regained his rationality and refused the offer. They began to attack Mike in his dream, causing him serious injuries. When he woke up, he found himself tied to a chair, facing a robot head with rotating saw blades approaching to mutilate his face. Terrified, he desperately tried to break free and was lucky to find the release button to escape from the chair in the nick of time. He hurriedly made his way to the emergency exit, but the door jammed. The Foxy Fox appeared behind and advanced towards him, but he managed to open the door in time. Meanwhile, at Jane's house, she was watching TV, unaware that the Freddy bear was standing behind her, and it promptly killed her. Abby heard the noise and went out to check. She encountered the blonde boy. He told Abby to come with him to the restaurant, and she happily agreed. Both of them then called a taxi to go to the restaurant. At the police station, Mike was saved by Vanessa and received medical attention for his injuries. He then told her about the exchange with the children in his dream, and Vanessa realized that Abby was in danger. It was at this point that she revealed the truth about the disappearance of the 5 children years ago, and the murderer behind it was none other than her father, the owner of the place, in the form of a yellow rabbit. He had hidden the bodies of the missing children inside the animatronics. Somehow, he had managed to control the spirits of the children to commit terrible deeds within the restaurant. Vanessa also told him that the kidnapper and murderer of his younger brother was the same person. Mike was in shock at the things he had just heard, but now their immediate mission was to rescue Abby. Vanessa handed Mike an electric gun and an electric rod, explaining that they could disrupt the electronic circuits of the animatronics. She declined to go with him, fearing she might have to face her father. Mikey quickly drove to the restaurant, sneaking inside through an air duct and cautiously approaching the stage where Freddy and Bonnie were singing. Mikey poured the water onto the stage and used the electric gun on the water, causing both Freddy and Bonnie to short-circuit and power down. Meanwhile, Chica tried to place Abby inside one of the animatronic body. Upon hearing Abby's screams, Mike rushed in, using the electric gun to rescue her from Chica. At this moment, Mike apologized for being so obsessed with his lost brother that he had forgotten about Abby, who was still alive. The two siblings shared words of love and quickly made their way out of the restaurant. However, Robot Cupcake chased after them and bit Mike's leg, dragging him back. Despite his injuries, Mike mustered the strength to kick it away and used an electric whip to disable it. Meanwhile, Abby ran into the restaurant's lobby, where Foxy spotted her and started chasing her. In her panic, Abby tried to hide in a ball pit, but Foxy was closing in. Fortunately, Vanessa arrived just in time to save Abby. As Mike arrived at the restaurant's lobby, he confronted the yellow rabbit, who was actually Vanessa's father. Mike attempted to use the electric gun on him, but it had no effect. The yellow rabbit attacked and threw Mike, rendering him unconscious. The rabbit then attempted to finish Mike with a knife. However, Vanessa suddenly appeared and pointed her gun at her own father, ordering him to stop. He removed the rabbit head to reveal his true face, and surprisingly, it was the job broker for Mike. He slowly approached Vanessa, but she fired a warning shot at him. Meanwhile, Abby quietly ran to wake up Mike. Mike explained that he used the painting to lie to children. He told Abby to redraw it to show them what had really happened. Steve suddenly rushed to knock the gun out of Vanessa's hand. He even cruelly stabbed his daughter. At this moment, Abby had redrawn the painting and pinned it over to reveal the true nature of the one who had killed them. The eyes of the animatronics lit up red and they closed in on Steve. They controlled the metal rods inside his tight suit, causing him to groan in pain as they broke his ribs, and then they dragged him inside. Abby and Mike took Vanessa outside before the animatronics destroyed the place. In the end, Mike took Vanessa to the hospital, hoping for a speedy recovery, and then he returned home to live happily with his little sister. This is the end of the movie. If you enjoy it, please like and subscribe to support my channel. Thanks for watching.